Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
I am Isana Caetano and you are?
Paul Lopez. Start your morning right.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. I probably botched that intro, Isani, but
don't worry about it, bro.
It's been a long holiday, a long Easter weekend.
Seems like you're still on the path to recovery.
That's exactly what's happening there. I don't know, how did you spend your Easter, Isani? What was up for you?
Well, I'll say this much, I'm well rested. It was a much needed break from the thick of things in our line of work.
Yeah.
I didn't go anywhere this year, surprisingly. I chose not to. So I stayed at home for the most part.
Okay.
Had family and friends over, barbecuing, doing everything, right? And so I come back today and I'm re-energized and I'm good to go.
That's great.
I'm glad that my kids were able to, or are still enjoying their Easter break. They're spending time with my parents down south, getting to know, the roots, the origin of where both families come from. And so, other than that, man, I'm good.
Well, I saw that as the trend across the weekend, that people spent a lot of time with their families.
Yeah.
People spent a lot of time with their friends. There was a lot of get-together, so a lot of people spent the weekend celebrating. Yeah. I noticed that Belizeans kept the Good Friday trend, where there wasn't much activities happening across the country.
Depending on where you were.
Depending on where you were. All right,
you know why I'm saying that, Paul?
Tell me.
Because in the earlier part of last week, the Commissioner of Police was on record. I guess this was based on the fact that questions were being asked, what's going to become of Good Friday in the face of the amendment to the intoxicating liquor license and all of that stuff from the end of last year, where, if you remember, that piece of law had been amended to allow for liquor to be sold on Christmas Day, I believe it was. But once you amend a piece of law, it carries forward until it is re-amended, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And so, because of that, and the questions being asked, the commissioner came forward and said, look, Good Friday will be just like an ordinary Friday, which means that the business community, those who are operating in the retail business like grocery stores, or those who are in the entertainment sector, industry, nightclubs, restaurants and bars, they were open for the most part, as far as I was aware. Yes, they were open. But you had others that made that choice to sort of honor the day based on the tradition of them having to be closed on that day anyway, on previous occasions.
And I saw that for in a large part here in Belize City, where some of, a lot of the businesses, at least in my area, the groceries, they were closed, and so it was hard to get to buy products on Friday. But like you said, it's honoring the tradition. For me, I spent the weekend going out to the Keys. So I after the cross country, which we'll talk about a bit in the Eye on the News, I decided to head out to San Pedro with some family and friends. And so we spent Saturday out there, the rest of Saturday night, Sunday, and came back in yesterday. I big up to San Pedro, big up to the town council. They had a lot of activities planned on the Boca del Rio.
So I heard.
On the beach. But apart from that, there's this place called Secret Beach. First time visiting Secret Beach, and I'll tell you, that's where everyone flocked to. That was on the island secret beach, but it was.
But it's no secret, right? That's a great irony of it, right? It's highly popularized.
Yeah, but it was a lovely experience. I feel like I definitely invested heavily in the local economy over there because it demands that you do so once you get on the island. But it was a fun time, and I love that at least on San Pedro, for the most part, we didn't hear of any sort of incidents take place. Anything that would cause fear or concern among partygoers or visitors, and so I appreciated that very much. But Isani, it's Tuesday. It's the first day of this week.
We call it a Monday Tuesday.
A Monday Tuesday. What we're going to do right now, I believe we're going to jump straight into the Eye on the News. So much to discuss.
Yes.
And so that's exactly what we're going to do right now.
The first thing I want to touch on, simply because it may have flown under the radar because of the extended holiday weekend, right? And it's, how do I say this? It's more international news, but it has some bearings or some, origins and tentacles, in a manner of speaking, to Belize, right? So, over the weekend, a 40-year sentence was handed down for Lev Derman. Now, for many who may have forgotten, and it's difficult to forget who Lev Derman is in the context of all the news coverage that we've given to this individual and his involvement with Belizean politicians, namely former Belmopan era Representative John Saldivar. So over the weekend, the U.S. High Courts handed down a 40-year sentence for him as one of the lengthiest sentences for the kind of crime that he was involved with. Now, you would recall, Paul, that Lev Derman, along with the Kingston family, right, in Utah, they were involved and subsequently convicted of defrauding the U.S. government of upwards of $1 billion. This had to do with the biofuel industry and all of that sort of stuff. So for those who may not remember or those who may not be in the know, again, why are we discussing this? Well, it's simple, right? Prior to the November 2020 general elections, well in advance, by a couple months, let's say, the former Minister of National Security, the former ERA representative, had leadership aspirations. His ambitions were to become the successor, the leader of the United Democratic Party, amid this scandal about monies received and the infamous tranches, right? And so, essentially, his candidacy, his eligibility to run and lead the UDP was hinged on this court matter at the time. Well, we saw what happened. He had won the convention in the first instance, and then there was this bombshell revelation, and then they took it back from him, and the rest is history, as we say, from there. It extended to him being ultimately designated by the U.S. government. Now, this is a position that he has staunchly refuted, that he was involved in any kind of illegal, activity with Lev Derman. But again, this is why we're discussing this thing.
Right.
Because while we covered everything involving John Saldivar's involvement with Lev Derman from the home front, I can recall that we also covered at least a week of the trial that was happening in Salt Lake City, right, involving Lev Derman. I believe at the time it was my colleague Hipólito Novello who had traveled to the United States to provide us with the coverage of that trial. And so here we are.
Yeah, you know, a couple things. First of all, Isani, oftentimes as Belizeans, we're not so well in following up some of these cases. This is one of those cases that was on the forefront of the newscast. It made headlines for several weeks, in fact, several months, especially as soon as it became home involved, where John Saldivar was concerned, and him stepping down from leadership. So to be able now to see the end of this and to bring this information to the Belizean public, especially those who may have been asking, all right, so what happened with the case? What happened with Lev Derman? We know that he was convicted and that he was awaiting sentencing, and then now over the weekend, news broke that this is the lengthiest sentence for a crime like this in the U.S. for one of these types of frauds. So that's one. It's important that we know where this case is going. I don't know that it still has any local implication in terms of whether or not, because as you rightly said, John Saldivar has denied having any sort of illegal involvement with Lev Derman. So in terms of whether or not this has any implications on him or anyone else involved with him or in some fashion or form, that's a question yet to be determined, but I don't know that that is the case. But also,
we know that the designation remains, though.
The designation does remain. In fact, the designation does remain. And secondly, it should create some sort of shiver in our local politics, or local leaders, sort of a warning or a caution per se to do your due diligence, to cross your T's and dot all your I's, because with this type of sentence, this is showing our leadership, our politicians, what it is that they could face. The sort of trouble that they could find themselves in, the sort of weight and conviction that these types of acts come with.
Well, here's the thing, and I respect what you're saying, but going a bit beyond that is the bigger picture, or the idea, the concept of campaign financing, and the need perhaps for campaign financing reform.
Right.
Because while, yes, Lev Derman has been convicted and sentenced in the United States, and John Saldivar has been designated on our side, the idea remains the same, right? What do we do to ensure that our politicians, come election time, they are seeking funding for their various campaigns, that those funds are legitimately gotten and spent, right? Because short of that, anybody can be a donor and say, okay, well, this is my horse in the race. I'll give him or her money to sponsor their campaign. But what is the source of that money?
Right.
How legitimate is it? Is it from the public purse? Is it from someone who's openly affiliated with illegal activities or that sort of stuff? So I think that's the big picture for us on this end.
Definitely.
Understanding and putting into perspective where we are in terms of campaign financing.
Right.
I think for us, that's the takeaway.
Right.
Whatever happens with Lev Derman on that end, that is on the U.S. soil. That's on their home front. Right? From our end is the idea that, you know what, we need to be more careful. And you mentioned due diligence earlier, right? We're going to be accepting money from anybody for any kind of public purpose, be it to finance an initiative under the government, be it to fund your particular campaign or your own initiatives in your area, whatever it may be. There should be legislation, there should be a system in place where we could be able to look at it from a transparent point of view, that everything is above board, and as you mentioned as well, all T's are crossed, all I's are dotted.
Because it's not only to protect the image of Belizeans and Belize as a nation, but it's also to protect the politicians. And the type of engagements that they have could either be detrimental to their careers or it could boost it. I am certain there is more Lev Dermans out there that is willing to use the finances they have, the access to finances and wealth as a sort of an influence to vulnerable politicians. And in an economy where our politicians rely heavily on campaign financing, outsource it, I could see many politicians falling into a trap if we're not diligent about this. So definitely, this is one of those top issues to discuss for us this morning.
So that's the first thing. I'm saving the cross country for last, right? Because I know we're going to go off into another conversation there. What I want to do at this point in time, Paul, is to discuss, and again, we don't have all the information at this point in time, but over the weekend as well, you know, word got out that our good friend, Assistant Superintendent Fitzroy Yearwood, had been hospitalized and he remains in the intensive care unit. My understanding is that he has once again suffered a massive stroke that has left him, you know, fighting for his life essentially. And so, again, some may be asking, why are we discussing ASP Yearwood? Well, he's a fixture in our newscast for the most part, particularly where it comes to the media interfacing with the Belize Police Department. Most of our interviews, if not from the Commissioner of Police himself, are from ASP Yearwood, and over the years we've built a solid rapport with him. So this is one of those things where we're praying for him. We wish his family, you know, all the best through this difficult time. And, you know, whatever it is that we can do from our end as his colleagues in the media, we will be doing.
You know, definitely my thoughts and prayers are with Mr. Yearwood. When I heard the news, I thought to myself, I said, man, I could only imagine what he may be going through at this time, what his family may be going through, what his colleagues over at the Belize Police Department may be going through. What viewers don't often get to see is the background, the lightheartedness that Mr. Yearwood brings when it comes to these various police press conferences. He is a friendly person, very kind, and oftentimes when we're setting up for these press conferences to take place, we'd have lighthearted discussions, and he's able to calm the room, get everybody settled and prepared. He's not intimidating, and not in terms of being able to have a conversation and ask your questions. He makes it easy for us to do so, and he brings the relevant information. And so definitely we in the news, we rely on him a whole lot to provide us with those important details that the country and our viewers look out for. And so certainly my thoughts and prayers are with Mr. Yearwood, and we hope all the best and for a speedy recovery for him. And our thoughts and prayers are also with his colleagues over there at the Belize Police Department and his family members.
Definitely. So now we segue into the cross country.
Yeah.
On Saturday, Holy Saturday, there was the 93rd running of the cycling classic that we all come to love and cherish so dearly. And I believe, Paul, and I'll leave you to delve a bit more deeper into it. I believe that at this point, Belizeans are once again breathing easily. Because it's one of us. When we say one of us, there has always been this argument about who's a true Belizean versus who, you know, has a Belizean lineage but not necessarily from here. You know the politics of that all. But on Saturday, when the good Mr. Quiroz rode across that finish line, you could have heard the, you know?
Yeah, figuratively, like my money was on Oscar. from the start of the race. In fact, even weeks prior, I had him as the favorite to win. It was him and another fella, Byron Pope. I had both of them as my favorites to win or at least secure the garland for Belizeans. And this race was exciting. One thing I know for sure is that Belizeans always have a better Easter holiday when a Belizean wins the cross-country cycling classic. Back in 2018, Justin Williams won the cross-country cycling classic. Now, he's a Belizean American, and that's where that politics came in, those conversations about true Belizean, your Banya, your Groya, your Trainia, and that's Oscar Quiros. This race was one for the books, I'll tell you that much, Isani. Early in the race, I think Belizeans were on the edge of their seats because there was an initial breakaway pack. And I believe there was one Belizean, if I'm not mistaken, in that breakaway pack, and they rode off almost into the sunset, but halfway into the race, the entire pack, the peloton got together and they remained as one, and it was going into the Coyote district now. When they crossed the Belize district, Coyote district border, that another four, not the initial four, a new four set of riders, they made the breakaway, and Oscar Quiros was in that second set of riders that broke away from the main peloton. And it was at that point that Belizeans were looking on and praying, we hope that Oscar Quiros remains in that set of four leading the race. And I felt it. I could hear the prayers, and I was around people that were also watching the race, and they're like, man, we hope he have the strength. We hope he have the stamina, because at this point there was at least 90 miles more to go. And so when it was coming into Belize City, now fast forward the race, just outside of Belize City, it was three riders now. It was Oscar Quiros, it was Corey Williams, and another member of the Miami Blazers, which is Oscar's team in the U.S. now, but Oscar was riding for 501 Valvoline, which is a Belizean team. And it was coming into Belize City that Oscar got off his saddle and he made a dash ahead of the two. I saw Corey Williams also got off his saddle in an attempt to chase. But for some reason or the other, Corey Williams stepped back figuratively, sat back in his seat, and all he did was he just dragged the third rider along while Oscar continued in his sprint. And at that point, I was out there at the Digipark, and it was crowded, filled with fans, and there was this loudspeaker with a radio announcer announcing the race, and you could hear the cheers. Oscar was about 2 to 3 miles out, and people were beginning to cheer, and the cheer was loud, and it grew louder and louder and louder as
it's a deafening buzz.
As soon as Oscar came in, and when he came in, he rode a bit down, and we were one of the first to capture him, to get him, and to have a conversation with him about the victory. Oscar was in tears. He couldn't believe that he actually won. And for me, I was like, I knew it from the start. I knew that you were one of the top contenders to win this race. And for Belizeans, it meant the world that the Garland returned home.
So here's a couple of things for us to look at as sort of a post-mortem to what has happened here. Well, first of all, the existing executive of the Belize Cycling Federation, they, you would say, went above and beyond in securing all the prizes as well. Because what was there for the taking this year was considerably more than what has been there in years before, right? So while we need to acknowledge that, we also need to look at the fact that the treasurer had stepped down just 2 weeks or so before this particular race, which is arguably the biggest cycling race for the year, right? Amid, from his end, the fact that he had grown frustrated with the idea of transparency in how funds for the federation were being spent and what have you. So while we're cheering and celebrating this particular moment, there is still that aspect of it that the federation needs to be able to address.
Yeah.
Right? At least perhaps to replace Warren Koyi with someone else who would come in and act as treasurer. I don't know how that process will be in terms of they'll go through an election process again, they'll appoint someone, or however that works out. I guess that's something for us to be able to follow up.
That's definitely something for us to be able to follow up, understanding the fact that this is a relatively newly elected executive, right? But I think notwithstanding the controversies within the executive, they put off, organized one hell of a race. We had approximately 110 riders that began the race. The prize money at the end was $15,000, which was
there were station prizes all along
and then
that were monetary and otherwise.
$15,000 equivalent in station prizes from Belize City to San Ignacio and back. But I think what we have right now, we have a quick bite from Oscar Quiros, just about from that initial interview that we did with him as soon as he finished the race and got off his bike. And so we have that queued up, and that's what we'll play right now.
Congratulations on the win, Oscar. I see tears of joy, a lot of people celebrating around you. Let's talk a bit about the emotions running through you right now.
I mean, it's totally overwhelming. I think at this point it still haven't synced in yet, and I dreamt about this moment for many years, and I've never pictured myself getting first. I know I was always a contender, and I mean, most people that knew me for many years, I always say, that I've prepared as much as I could, and by the end of the day, I've done my part. And of course, I feel like it's just up to the good Lord when He decides, hey, it's your turn, and it doesn't matter what. If it comes your way, it comes your way. You just don't know when. And I mean, today He blessed me with one of the best feeling ever in my life. In Belize. I don't know what to say. This thing is just crazy.
Many people don't understand how grueling the journey can be, and you broke away with a group of 3 others from early on in the race. Let's talk a bit about the challenge, the will and the energy it took to keep up and maintain that lead throughout this race.
I mean, one thing that I changed earlier this year was the nutrition part. It never really guarantees you anything, but I know me and my teammate Johnny Brown, which was in the break, he told me that you just have to make sure that you eat very good from very, very early on. Be patient, and of course, if it comes your way, it comes your way. And I don't know what happened. I didn't dream about it from when the break happened, but hey, it starts in a process, and I have to thank him very much. I have to thank Corey as well, Justin. Those guys made sure that the plan was for the Garland to stay here in Belize. If it wasn't me, it was going to be Corey. And I'm just very appreciative of how these guys, they support me. They've put me up in the next level. Here's the guy. Thanks, man. Good job, bro. Man, thanks. I tried, man. I tried. Corey and the guys, they really gave me this opportunity to believe in myself a bit more here in Belize and outside. I mean, and from now on, I just have to owe it all to them and everybody else that support me, my family. Shucks, there's so many things I want to say, but
was a discussion had coming into Belize City for you to make the breakaway?
You mean in the last move there? Not necessarily. We all rode together. We shared it 110%. They had spells that I was suffering. You never know who's suffering and who's not. But I said, let me try something. I know Corey is a very, very strong sprinter. So bringing him to the line was going to be I'm good, but I'm not as good as that guy. So I had to try something. I don't know if it was going to work. I tried my best, and like I said, God gave me that extra power, and I'm just happy that I could have bring the Garland back home.
Tony, I'll say these last couple of things about this race. Oscar Quiros gave thanks to his teammate. I think his last name was Brown. He gave thanks to Johnny Brown. So Johnny Brown, though he didn't win, many people are considering him the rider of the match. Basically because Brown did what he was supposed to do when it comes to cycling. Brown was part of that four riders that broke away, and what Brown did, Brown supported Oscar for the majority of the race. He basically allowed Oscar to come in, because what happened with Brown, he fell back at a point in time coming back to Belize City. But he did what he was supposed to do, what he was required to do in supporting Oscar, giving Oscar Quiros that relief that he needed when either his legs were burnt out or he was running short of breath. Then Brown would rotate and continue to lead for Oscar, and then when Oscar would recover, he would take back the lead and Brown would fall back. So Brown did a lot of the heavy lifting as he is supposed to do when it comes to being a teammate, because then I would imagine they identified Oscar Quiros as the person to win the race and Brown as the support, Johnny Brown as the support. So I give him my kudos.
I've always had a fundamental issue with understanding how that works, that dynamic, so to speak. Because I don't know that the winner of a race can be predetermined.
It's interesting, you know.
I know it's interesting, and that's the reason why I've said I've had this fundamental, you know, issue with processing it the way it is. Because I'm thinking, look, if it's meant to be for me, sir, it's for me. Even if you and I are working in tandem to try to win the race, even if you're the preordained winner, so to speak, bro, if your legs give way,
then you have to do something. Exactly. Exactly, but you can't do it alone. And that's the thing with cycling. You can't do it alone. Because if you find yourself out there by yourself, I promise you, you will burn out unless you have that sort of stamina to just run through the race. And I think John DeLong, last year, American rider, he proved that he was able to do something like that. But this year, he didn't show up to the challenge to do that. But secondly, I also want to big up San Ignacio and Santa Elena and the folks over there in Cayo, because following the race, I think Oscar had a couple celebrations here, but they had an entire parade for him in San Ignacio.
As they should, as they rightly should.
And I mean, the involvement from the residents were huge. It looked as if you were bringing in an international rider or a World Cup team or an NBA Finals team.
He's what you call a hometown hero.
Indeed.
Right? He brought the garland, he brought it back to San Ignacio, and that's to be celebrated. I mean, where else would you want to be, you know, celebrated and honored for that victory than precisely?
Yeah.
All right, so that does it for us with the ANA News this morning. There's one other thing that I wanted to touch on, and I'll do so briefly. There was a burglary over the weekend in which firearms and ammunitions were stolen, and this is from Tycob and Sons, right? And so I believe there has been a bulletin or a memo that's in circulation for the recovery and the return of these weapons. So that is something we'll be closely looking at. Just to round out the conversation, while we mentioned earlier that ASP Yearwood is currently hospitalized in intensive care unit, I presume that someone else from the Belize Police Department PR unit or department will be assigned to us to provide the interviews and the requisite information regarding crime and violence issues from over the weekend. So tying it back to the burglary, then we need to find out exactly what took place there and what the efforts are to get these weapons off the streets. We all know that if it falls into the wrong hands, what the outcome or the consequences of that could be.
Indeed.
All right, so That does it for us this morning on the Eye on the News. Remember, details of these stories and more you will be able to catch live on 5 at 6 p.m. If you're not in front of your television sets, it's not an issue. Join us on Facebook or on YouTube.
All right, and so, Isani, what we're going to do now is we're going to get into the weather. This weekend was pretty sunny, hot all through, no rain, and I think Belizeans appreciated that fact very much, that we didn't have any of that over the weekend. There were some instances where it seemed as if it would rain, but nothing like a nice sunny Easter weekend. And so the weather, we have the audio ready, and so we're going to cue that up now.
Good morning. Seasonally warm and dry weather will prevail. The 24-hour forecast is for mostly sunny skies today and partly cloudy skies tonight. Little or no rain will occur, except for the chance for an isolated thunderstorm over the mountains this afternoon and in the north tonight. Winds over the open sea will be from the east at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight. High temperatures today will be around 88 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 95 inland, but only 82 degrees up in the mountains. The outlook for Wednesday and Wednesday night is for continuing warm and mostly dry conditions with isolated showers and isolated thunderstorms developing inland Wednesday afternoon. There is a low tide at 6:44 this morning, a high at 12:48 this afternoon, another low 8:54 tonight, and another high at 3:33 tomorrow morning. The sun rose at 5:39 this morning and will set at 6:08 this evening. The moon sets at 9:51 this morning and comes up again at 11:43 tonight. In the fire risk forecast, the risk for forest and brush fires remains high countrywide. With that, we end this report from the Belize Weather Bureau.
Yeah, we want to say thanks to Fort Casa, Derek Rudon, as you said rightly there, Sani, for bringing us that weather update. More warm and dry conditions ahead for this week.
We're at that time of year, Paul.
It is. It is.
When
indeed.
I need to whip out my watering hose to water my plants in the garden. I can no longer depend on the rain. Right?
Yeah, definitely can't. And of course, to remain hydrated, you have to keep your water bottles and so forth beside you. What we're going to do now is we're going to get into the eye-opener for the morning, just to get that motivation. On a Tuesday morning, it's the first day, work day for this week, and we need a little bit of motivation to carry us from the Easter weekend into the activities for this weekend. So the eye-opener is taken from dailyarm.com, and it goes like this. It says, we can trust that our inner core is always shining brightly, even when we cannot quite see it. There are times when our whole world seems to be falling apart around us, and we are not sure what to hold on to anymore. Sometimes our relationships crumble, and sometimes it's our physical environment. At other times, we can't put our finger on it, but we feel as if all the walls have fallen down around us and we're standing with nothing to lean on, exposed and vulnerable. These are the times in our lives when we are given an opportunity to see where we have established our sense of identity, safety, and well-being. And while it is perfectly natural and part of our process to locate our sense of self in externals, anytime those external factors shift, we have an opportunity to rediscover and move closer to the core of our being, which is the only truly safe place to call home. When things around us are falling apart, we can cling to this core, knowing that an inextinguishable light shines from within ourselves. Times of external darkness can be a great gift in that they provide an opportunity to remember this inner light that shines regardless of the circumstances of our lives. When our external lives begin to come back together, we are able to lean a bit more lightly on them, knowing more clearly than ever that our true home is that bright sun shining in our core. Speaks to the inner light within us, Isani. The thing that
the inner light represents for me,
Yeah.
Optimism,
Yup.
hope,
Yup.
confidence, right? These are some of the core values
Right.
that come from within. And in the face of adversity, in the face of hopelessness or helplessness, once you're able to look within,
Yeah.
you'd be able to discover that these qualities are in you, and you're
Yeah.
able to draw on them to be able to see the light, proverbially
Yeah.
speaking, right? If we're talking about the darkness, things look gloomy, things aren't going your way, you just need to step back a bit and say, okay, let me be introspective.
Right.
And by being introspective, you're able to look within and find the tools, so to speak,
Right.
or the traits that you could draw on to be able to get you through an issue.
For me, the inner light also speaks to being able to have a vision, a vision to see beyond the circumstances that exist in the moment. I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and the topic of where do you see yourself in the next 5 years came up. And this conversation is is taking place in the midst of some difficulties, a bit of challenges, right? And it was in having that conversation and verbally expressing one to another where we see ourselves in the next 5 years that there was this sense of relief, this sense of calm. In a practical sense, well, in the next 5 years, I see myself here, I see myself doing this, because then you build hope. You build vision, you build courage even to say that whatever we're seeing right now in the external at the moment is not all that there is to life. There is more ahead, and we'll just take it one step at a time, put our foot forward to get to where we need to be in the next 5 years. So that's what the Eye Opener speaks to me.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned vision, because that also comes from within.
It does.
If you don't have foresight, if you don't have vision to be able to see where you want to be, where you need to be, where you're going, then you're pretty much running in circles, right?
Indeed.
You're going about life on a day-to-day basis without really looking forward to anything.
Indeed.
And when you talk about young people finding their way, vision is an important thing.
I agree.
Because while you're going through school, at some point that comes to an end, and then you get into the real world. And to be able to navigate the real world and its trials, you have to have some kind of vision and an end game, right?
Yeah,
to know where you're going.
And as we move on, compare it to the cross-country race, Oscar Quiroz feeling all that pain, feeling that fatigue, that tiredness while he's headed back to Belize City. That's what he's feeling in the moment. And he could say, you know what, I tired of this, I had to jump off of this bike, get in my service truck, and I don't worry about this race anymore. But that vision, the finish line is ahead. And I have to bear the pain to get there, and ultimately I'll win the garland.
I'm glad you use vision. I use the light at the end of the tunnel.
The light at the end of the tunnel.
The light
Indeed.
within shines the light ahead,
Indeed.
right?
Indeed.
But yeah, interesting eye-opener this morning.
Very encouraging, Isani. And what we're going to do now is we're going to get into the show for this morning, because we have a couple of interesting conversations to be had. Of course, so we're going to start this morning with our first segment. We'll be joined by BNTU candidates that are vying for presidency. We've announced that Elena Smith is demitting office. President Elena Smith is demitting office after having served her 3 terms, and there's several candidates that is vying for the presidency. We're going to have a couple of them this morning joining us for a conversation.
Our second conversation this morning will be with our friends from the National Fire Service. There's a lot for us to discuss with them going into the dry season. We know that fires either at home, or residential areas or businesses, or wildfires are something for us to be concerned about this time of year. So that's what we're going to be discussing in our second segment.
But before we do all of that, of course, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. So stay tuned, stay put, perhaps get some coffee, and then come right back and join us for our first conversation for this morning.
It's almost lunchtime and Alice is getting hungry and forgot to bring cash. She remembers that eCash now has a geolocation feature in which she can easily view the eCash merchants near her, especially restaurants. Her co-workers also ask her to order food for them.
Chicken chow mein, please, and a Coke.
The merchant sends her the payment link. She taps confirm, and within a few minutes, her food is delivered. Alice then views her transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the split the bill button where she selects the unevenly option and moves the bar to the desired amount per person. The request is then sent to her friends. Her colleagues accept the request and are ready to enjoy their meals. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash make Alice's life a whole lot easier.
Whether you are getting ready for school or the office, or to work on a construction site, there is one common factor. Great days start by looking your best. From the moment you start to button your shirt, strap your boots, or straighten your badge, every detail of your uniform was sourced with you in mind. At Tropicana Store, we pride ourselves in providing the highest quality, most durable uniform brands. Our collection includes 100% cotton or dry fit, wrinkle-free, smart crease, and machine washable options. Your uniform is a reflection of you, and you deserve to look your best. Visit Tropicana Store today and see for yourself the high quality that only we can provide. Your uniform, your identity, your choice. Only at Tropicana Store.
The last time we visited Miss Francesca Howers was to deliver the exciting news that she was chosen to receive a home sponsored by SMART for its 18th anniversary through the Hand in Hand Ministries housing program. Since then, she has actively been participating in attending Saturday sessions to improve her life skills, cleared her property for its foundation and construction of her home, and has assisted in the construction of a home for another recipient of Hand in Hand housing program. All these activities are to foster a more responsible, responsive citizen in our community.
Ailing due to a chronic disease and are left permanently invalid before retirement age, you may want to check if you qualify to receive invalidity benefit. The invalidity benefit exists for persons who are unable to continue working due to permanent illness. To qualify, you must be under 60 years old, must be sick for 26 consecutive weeks and certified to be medically unable to perform any type of work, must have at least 5 years of paid SSB contributions and at least 5 paid within the 3 months leading up to your illness. If you do not qualify for the invalidity pension, you may be eligible for the invalidity grant. Want to know more about invalidity benefit? Visit our website or contact any of our offices to have someone assist you. Also, be sure to visit our Facebook page and give us a like to stay informed. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5 Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
Do you have information about a crime or a fugitive in our community? You can submit a tip anonymously with your smartphone. Using this program in safeguarding our community also protects your identity, keeping you out of the court system, and could earn you a cash reward. Here is how it works. Download the free P3 Tips app from the Apple Store or Android Market. P3 is the provider of our secure anonymous tip collecting software. Open the app and create a PIN, but be sure to remember that number, then select your location. Next, select the type of crime. When submitting a tip, be as specific as possible. If you have a picture, video, or audio that will help officers, you can upload them from your phone. Information leading to an arrest can earn you a cash reward of up to $1,000. Once your tip is submitted, you'll be given a tip ID and password. Check back if your tip leads to an arrest. You'll be told how much you were rewarded and how to anonymously collect your cash.
Time to wake up. Time to prepare for the day. Time to learn. Time to make a difference. Time to look after yourself. Time to see your healthcare provider. Don't let cervical cancer stop you from unleashing your potential. Now is the time to get vaccinated. Now is the time to get screened. Now is the time to end cervical cancer. For more information, visit us at www.paho.org/endcervicalcancer.
And welcome back. As we mentioned prior to our first commercial break, our discussion to open the show with is with the candidates for the presidency of the Belize National Teachers Union. We have joining us in studio this morning presidential candidate Ifashina Ifuniemi. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We also have joining us via Zoom all the way from Punta Gorda, I believe it is also presidential candidate Ray Martinez. Good morning, Mr. Martinez.
Good morning to you all, and good morning, Sis Ifa.
Good morning, Brother Ray.
All right, let's first of all begin by getting an understanding from each of you what has sort of drawn you to this particular candidacy. You're both vying to succeed Elena Smith, and some would say those are big shoes to fill, but you also come with your own vision of what your presidency would be like should you be elected. Let's start with you, Ifashina.
I was asked by my executive of the Stankwik branch, because I am the secretary of that branch, if I would consider running for the presidency. And I initially had said no, because that's a major decision. For me, making major decisions in life requires some serious reflection and, of course, spiritual consultation, which is what I did. And when I did that, I was told that this was in keeping with my life purpose, because my name means Ifa opens the way, and spiritual guidance is what guides me. And when I follow spiritual guidance, I am able to live a purposeful life and open the way for others at the same time. So this particular journey, this particular milestone on my life journey, is just in keeping with what I was born to do. And that is why I agreed to offer myself for this position, because it is in keeping with my destiny.
And yourself, Brother Ray?
I am a teacher at heart, brother. I've been a teacher for 16 years, and I have realized that as teachers, we truly have been kind of not appreciated fully by those in charge. And we have been suffering, brother. We have been suffering for the past 3 years, where our salaries have not increased. We have not been provided with increments. Teachers are one paycheck away from poverty. And with this in mind, I'm a person who tends to stand up for those who are afraid to speak, for those who are afraid to share their suffering. And so I want to be that advocate for our union, to truly be able to speak to those who are at the realms, to have them realize that we truly have been suffering and we need to be appreciated. And so with that in mind, I have offered myself, because that is how I live. I live to advocate for those who are facing injustice.
Mr. Fashina, I wanted to get a bit deeper into your involvement with the union. Let's talk a bit about your history. Perhaps this is lengthy, we don't want to go way back, but talk a bit about your involvement and some of the key issues that you've seen yourself stand at the forefront to advocate for or against.
Interestingly, I was on the other side of that microphone when it came to my involvement with the union at first, because of course in journalism I would cover stories on the actions being taken by the union. But since 2008, when I started teaching at Stann Creek Ecumenical Junior College, that meant also becoming a member. It was automatic that I would become a member of the BNTU. Advocacy is something that I've been doing since my teens. So it was only natural that I would be a part of the BNTU so that I could do advocacy in the area of rights for educators. It's not only teachers that are members of the BNTU, although teachers are the majority. We also have members who work in the education sector who are non-teaching staff that can be members of the BNTU. So when we fight, our advocacy is not just for those who are in the classroom, but those who make it work, make the whole system work for the benefit of the children in our country. So for me, being in the union, it was quite easy to fall in. And I have had experiences of having to fight for my own rights as an educator. Had it been left to a previous administrator, I would not be still at Stann Creek Ecumenical Junior College. And it was my active participation in the union and, of course, leaning on the union and getting the support of the union, the guidance of the union. That is how I was able to win that fight. So my experience when it comes to this work of advocacy is not from a standpoint that is superficial. It is from personal experience. Even when the strike occurred the last time in 2021, my management withheld 30% of my salary. And again, I had to draw on my knowledge as an advocate, as a unionist, to fight that injustice, because there are specific rules about what's the due process when it comes to certain situations in the school setting. And sometimes administrations and managements need to be reminded of that. So my work in the union has been both from a personal experience of fighting for my rights, but also in terms of all the actions that you've seen occur between 2008 and the present. Once there was a demonstration, a rally, a strike, any such thing, a march, I was there and I was in front. That's why some of the images that you see me, because, well, I'm not regular, so I'm not afraid to be in the front. Yeah. That's where I will be. Yeah. That's a natural place for me to be, because I believe in leading by example as well. So if people are going to be behind me, beside me, in front of me, they know it's because I'm feeling what they're feeling. I'm going through the same thing. I can relate to their experiences.
Yeah, I wanted to just get a bit from Mr. Ray as well as we lay the foundation for those who may not be fully familiar with you and your involvement in unionism and specifically the Belize National Teachers Union.
Well, I've been a member from when I started teaching in 2007 at St. Peter Claver RC School. It was automatic that after I had signed my contract to work, that the September union meeting was where I got my application form, and without hesitating, it's part of what I believe in. I believe in unity. With unity we have strength. And so that was automatic for me, and I've been involved in all those different situations where we've had to stand our ground. I've been to the rallies, I've been to all of those events that we have done, and I took leadership of the Toledo Rural Branch about 2 years ago, and that was my first being in the realm of leader, of president of a branch. And I could say that in that short time frame, I have doubled the finances of our branch. I have increased our membership, and I am one of the few presidents that travel with my members. I'm with them on the same bus every day at 6 a.m. I get to hear from them. I get to get their complaints in person. So I'm one of the few presidents that could boast that I go through the experiences of my members. Having no electricity at the school that I work, having no internet access, having all of these struggles combined with losing our 10% and increments has made it really hard. And so I've been involved with the union my entire career.
Let's open up the conversation a bit here. When we think trade unions, when we look at the labor movement and the organization of workers in this country, there always seems to be somewhat of like a adversarial or an antagonistic position being taken when dealing with the government, for instance, right? We look at BNTU and the strikes, the demonstrations. We look at BSCFA in the north if we're talking sugar. We look at the Christian Workers Union. When we look at the movement, and we always say there always seems to be some kind of bucking of heads. Now you guys are vying for leadership of BNTU, arguably the most powerful union in this country. What different would you guys bring to the table individually were you to be in that position, in that office of president, and you're interfacing directly with the government, for instance? Because on their end, certain decisions will be made, perhaps in consultation with you guys as union leaders, or some would say unilaterally in some case. We know how these things go. What would be different in terms of your engagement with government at that level, so that perhaps things could be solved more amicably, as opposed to first thing, take to the streets and protest?
Well, taking to the streets is not the first thing. And I'm glad you brought the historical context, because the labor movement was not built on adversary behavior. When workers organized, it was an escalation. There were petitions that were submitted to the governor at the time. There were meetings organized with the merchants when that devaluation occurred in 1894. It was once the merchants and the governor and the people who were in leadership, once they ignored the cries of the workers, once they behaved and dismissed what the workers were advocating for, then things escalated to then picketing and demonstrations, strikes, and even riots. It never starts from that point, the highest point. It always starts with negotiation. It always starts with discussion. The worker is concerned about her or his well-being. being able to live well, comfortably, support themselves and their families. That has been the way from the beginning of time. When do workers get riled up? Even yourselves. The minute that this company starts to abuse you, take too much of your time, do not compensate you fairly for the work that you put in, aren't you supposed to get riled up? Aren't you supposed to seek some redress for that injustice, that disservice? It is always content for the person on the other side, the recipient, the beneficiary of our labor, to enjoy the sweets. But never do they seem to want to fairly compensate for the work that we put in. So, going into the negotiating room does not have to be always a conflict. It doesn't have to be. It's about changing mindsets. It's about letting the government, the people that we elect into office, understand their role. They have a social contract with us. We entrust them with our resources because we are the ones that paid them. For sure, they get their 25% out of my salary, Brother Ray's salary, and all of us who are educators as well as those who work in the public service. They are certain of that. We don't get any tax write-offs. We pay for their salaries and all of the benefits, the privileges, the perks that they enjoy. So in fact, we are their employers. That is what needs to be understood by those persons that occupy those positions. So when we go into the negotiating room, there should be mutual respect there. This is not, I bow down to you because you're the government. No, you are my employee and you must conduct yourself accordingly. We have work to do. There is a partnership at play here. So I have what I'm supposed to do, and you have all these regulations in place to keep me in check. So you also need to be kept in check. To whom much is given, much is expected. That is what I bring to the table. A reminder of who is playing what role. Because at the end of the day, it is our country that's at stake. Those children that we go into the classroom to educate, they are the ones that are the future and present of our nation. We don't have time to be playing with them. But if you want us to do the right thing, do our jobs to the best of our capacity, you cannot abuse us. You cannot treat us as if though we have no value. If you recognize and appreciate that all that you enjoy is because of us, that changes everything around that table, doesn't it? So that's what I want to see happen when we go into the negotiating room. I want that there be a clear understanding of the roles that we all play. We have very important roles to play. And I'm staying in my role for as long as God permits. You see, I'm not elected into office when it comes to being an educator. It's the job that I do. And as long as I do it well, I will continue to be doing it. When it comes to being a politician, that's a whole other story. It's how well you pay off people. It's how well you keep the people ignorant. And we don't hold them to a very high standard, not enough. This is what I would like to change in the minds of teachers, in the minds of children, in the minds of the people of Belize, so they understand who is really the boss. And the boss is us, we the people, because we're the ones that pay the people that we place in government.
Let's get your take on this, Brother Ray.
In regards to that, our mandate is by membership. We don't act alone. The membership tells or relays the message of their discontent, whether it might be due to compensation, whether it might be due to unfair treatment at the work site, whatever the issue might be, it's relayed to the branch presidents, and all 10 of these branch presidents, along with their secretaries, sit at what we call a Council of Management. The national president, based on what is eventually voted on as a majority, then advocates and deals with that discussion or relays it to the government. This is something I like because it collectively allows all members to have a say in our approach, in our discussion. I grew up with a saying, you know why animals fight? Because they can't talk. We, as being the top animal, tend to have that gift of being able to discuss, of being able to compromise, of being able to have these things. Now, ultimately, if the discussions on all of these other things have been carried out, and then there is no level of being able to get treated fairly, then of course the streets, we hit the streets for them to see our membership, for them to see the level of discontent. And so this is something that I bring to the table, a fresh perspective, a young perspective, a person who truly wants to lead where we are able to negotiate. The government is not our enemies, they are our partners in education. That's one of the most important things. We are to work hand in hand to make sure that education, the entire education system of Belize works for the benefit of our country. Our mandate as unionists also says that we're supposed to make sure that good governance of our resources, of our national treasures, and all of these things are dealt with accordingly. And that I would make sure I see happen. I am non-partisan, brother. I am not afraid to speak against any government. It could be red, it could be blue, because I truly am somebody who is not affiliated with any. I'm not connected to any minister. I don't even know them personally. And so you get from me an advocate, a leader that could freely share without any worry of any repercussions, because I truly have been somebody who has done my due. I continue to do my due, and I am somebody that once there is injustice, we will do all that it takes to make sure that that injustice is dealt with. I myself has been victims of several things. When I came from study leave, I didn't receive my salary for 4 months. I fought with my management for that. I was one of the 18 teachers who had that great stance against our management at that time without the aid of the union. So from Ray Martinez, you get a person who, as long as there's injustice, he will say it, and he will not be afraid to say it, because there is no looking over my shoulder or worries, because I am not affiliated in any way, and I truly get an advocate that will voice genuinely what teachers are facing, what we are going through. And for the past 3 years, it has not been anything nice for any of us. So that is what I bring to the table, brother.
I have one other question to follow up on here. Aside from what we know in terms of what we've been covering extensively in the news, the issue of increments and raises and what have you, if we were to put that on one side and ask you guys, what are some of the other challenges being faced by teachers in the education sector? How would you respond to that?
If I may, rather, one of the challenges is we're one of the only people on the government payroll that has to go in our pockets for uniform. I remember when we had a meeting with Minister Zabane, the Minister of State. I asked him, Minister, I think it's about time we get a uniform allowance. Police get uniform allowance. BDF get allowances, everybody. But I have to dip out of my salary about $500 every year to purchase my uniform. Our coverage to and from work by Social Security That is something. I get on a bus 6 o'clock. I get to my work site at 7. Between 7 and 9 a.m., I'm at the mercy of the Lord. I would say if anything would happen to me. And it's the same thing in the evening. Our shut-off is at 3:30. The bus passes at 4:45. Again, if anything should happen to me, again, I am at the mercy of myself and my resources. These are some issues that have been on the backbench for years. Another burning issue is that CPD hours of 120 hours. Teachers are being let go because they cannot meet that. I have been voicing that as the national president, once elected, we will seriously have to revisit that figure, and we as BNT will provide the trainings necessary for our members to be able to keep their license and keep their work. So there are a lot of pressing issues that we need to deal with. Ultimately, aside from the financial compensation, there are a lot of shortcomings that we live by daily that needs to be addressed. High school teachers, where they work with respective managements, are only getting 70% of their due. The managements at the end are saying, we don't need to compensate you. We're just quasi-government. It's not a full government school. So there are a lot of pressing issues that need to be settled. And these are the things that would be paramount of my looking into once elected in 2 days from now.
Let's get your take here.
In addition to, because the list is in fact long, and having visited schools over the past couple of weeks and talking to teachers myself, there are many issues that they are facing at their work sites. A lot of teachers are still being pressured to, for example, equip their classrooms and make sure that their classrooms are attractive and so forth at their own expense. We get paid once per month. There are restrictions about who gets hardship allowance and who gets commuting allowance. The kind of perks that are guaranteed to, for example, the people that hold high positions in the ministries, those things are not afforded to us as educators. And teachers have to go through a lot of challenging circumstances to get to and from work, as Brother Ray had described. And then still, even if they're in the urban setting, a lot of these schools are not in the best conditions. Whose responsibility is it to ensure that the infrastructure is maintained and that the facilities are suitable both for the teacher and the students? That is an area that we need to address as well, holding managements accountable to doing their part, because it's an equation and each of us, we have our role to play in that equation. And as I've consulted with teachers and will continue to do so as the next national president, it is to find out some of their unique circumstances, because there are issues that tertiary educators also experience that might not be experienced at the secondary and primary level. All right, so consultation with teachers is going to be pivotal to ensuring that our work is successful. We do get a lot of the complaints coming to us from our members, and we need to know more from them. We need to hear more from them. Some teachers are disillusioned. They do not feel that they are being served well in the union or by the union, and that is something that needs to improve. Perhaps part of it is not being able to see us often enough. We're not there and liaising often enough, frequent enough. There's not that constant communication. Yes, we have a structure in place that involves the branches and their executives, but perhaps if the members are able to see the president more often, then there's much more. If we are able to utilize successfully the database system that we've implemented at the union, that will help to improve the communication between head office and the membership, because we're spread across this country to very far and remote locations. But we need to hear from all of our members, ensuring too that they have the necessary facilities in terms of communication. The pandemic should have taught us so much in terms of using technology effectively. But how can you use your device if there is no electricity, if there is no internet connection, if there isn't a proper road system or transportation system? So those are some of the things. These are bread and butter issues that teachers are experiencing, and they have been experiencing them. We have been experiencing them for far too long. So we're not going to have a shortage of that list anytime soon, but they will be addressed bit by bit.
A couple of the issues that are at the fore currently ongoing, one being the discussions where pension reform is concerned. I know that that is a matter being dealt with also along with the joint union. So that would be one of the bodies that you would have to put yourselves in if you're to be elected, to have that discussion. And then there's also the matter of the collective bargaining agreement, which we haven't seen a renewed CBA, I think, for the better part of the last decade, if I'm correct. What are your views on those two issues? And you can break them apart, but I know one of the more relevant one has to do with pension reform.
You know,
if allowed, I'll go ahead, because in all honesty, brothers, I have a bus to catch to Orange Walk.
All right, go ahead.
I will have to take my leave in a bit.
Yeah, no
problem. In terms of the pension reform, the realities is that proposed by the government is this, that new workers come July will have to start paying towards their pension fund. The IMF has shared with us that ultimately it is not sustainable that the government has to take that entire load of paying pension. Now, our situation with our members is that they land at different parts of the spectrum in regards to this pension reform. We're wondering what will happen with our members who already qualify for pension. Like myself, I've been teaching for 16 years. After 15 years, you're pensionable. Do I still need to contribute to something that I have already contributed to? And then we think about those who land below that. Will they just continue to contribute till they reach the 15 years? And of course, our new teachers, they're saying that they will have to pay. The government side have shared with us that everybody at some point will have to pay. What we are trying to do is we're trying to grandfather in those who are already pensionable and have them, if any contribution is mandatory down the end, it might be very minute, because we have done our amount to make sure that we are pensionable. So this discussion of that pension reform would still have to be ongoing, and it would have to be settled. We need the figures to show how much of it. I honestly, I was a bit discontent with us getting 1 point of increment, and then now this talk about pension reform, because all I see is a relay of our finances. I see that you're giving me this increment, and then the next thing you know, this increment will go towards pension reform. I'm lucky if I'm left with a few dollars in my pocket, which is very unfair to our members. And I was very vocal about that at council meeting. Yes, it is progress, because at first the government said absolutely no increment. We will not hear about it. But I believe it's 3 points on our salary scale. We have been living with a 3-year-old paycheck, and we know the realities of inflation, of our having to pay GST and all these things. It is time for us to get our due. And this pension reform is another way of shorting us of our due. And so that would be one of my first things to deal with when elected, or if elected as national president. The CBA, it's long overdue. That's something that I would want to settle within the next year or two. It has become a monster for us to settle. It has become the beast in the room. It's long overdue, and it is time for us to put it to rest. And that is another thing that I would propose, that within my presidency, that would be dealt with, and a new draft be dealt with immediately to see how we will progress over the next coming years.
We'll take your...
Thank you.
Sure. We'll take your response or your input from here, and then we'll take a commercial break afterwards.
Okay.
Let's hear from you.
So we can't discuss pension reform without discussing tax reform. It is completely unfair, unreasonable, and unjust for us to be paying 25% of our salaries every month to income tax, and then other people are only paying 6%, who are making much more than we do, and we only get paid once per month. So the issues, like I said, the list is long. We need to ensure that that old CBA is finalized, and that's the indication that we've had. So the first order of business is getting that off the table, completed and off the table. Then looking at the new CBA and what the new issues are, because inflation is real. Our compensation is due to us. We're not asking for a favor. So that has to be placed on the table. You cannot have robbed us for the past 3 years and then not compensate us for that. So that's primary. Teachers are already, members are saying this has to be dealt with. And the pension issue is very touchy. Yeah. It's very touchy because nobody's questioning they're getting their pensions and how much pension they're guaranteed. And look how long we have to be working before we're guaranteed our pension. And now you're talking to us about making contributions to it, giving and taking back more than what you're actually giving. It's not, that doesn't sound fair. It's not fair. It's not reasonable. It's not acceptable. So we have to go back to the table when it comes to that. No pension reform without tax reform. Bottom line.
That's for the CBA?
Yes, because we when it comes to the CBA, like I said, it needs to be finalized. This old one, that's really, it has seen too much time. There was too much dragging of feet with that. It needs to be completed. That can't go into another year. Yeah. That shouldn't even go into another month. Yeah. That needs to be done. Okay? Once that is cleared up, we have to have a new one because there are new issues arising already. And if there was that respect coming from our employees who have the position of being in government, if they had that respect for us, we wouldn't have all these demands, because it's just fair treatment. That's all it boils down to, fair treatment. This is a job that's never done. You imagine? You don't get an actual holiday per se. When they say you have time off, what time off? You're always checking work, preparing for the next lesson. Even when you're supposed to be on a break, you're still dealing with work. And
then there's CPDs that you need to keep abreast of during your summer break.
Yes.
We'll take a quick commercial break, all right? We want to say thanks to Brother Ray Martinez, who has other obligations that he has to deal with. We'll take a commercial break, and when we return, we'll bring on other candidates from the BNTU membership who are vying for seats on the executive. Stay tuned.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Full-Tech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
From now on, when you visit Uno, you will experience an A+ power in all fuels. Dynamax has evolved into Dynamax Plus. The new formula with the ultimate technology and additives provides an A+ power and A+ performance. Dynamax Plus, available in diesel, regular and premium. Try it today and reach further. Uno, a different energy.
Explore the great outdoors with Benny's Quality and Savings.
Do you have information about a crime or a fugitive in our community? You can submit a tip anonymously with your smartphone. Using this program in safeguarding our community also protects your identity, keeping you out of the court system, and could earn you a cash reward. Here is how it works. Download the free P3 Tips app from the Apple Store or Android Market. P3 is the provider of our secure anonymous tip collecting software. Open the app and create a PIN, but be sure to remember that number, then select your location. Next, select the type of crime. When submitting a tip, be as specific as possible. If you have a picture, video, or audio that will help officers, you can upload them from your phone. Information leading to an arrest can earn you a cash reward of up to $1,000. Once your tip is submitted, you'll be given a tip ID and password. Check back if your tip leads to an arrest. You'll be told how much you were rewarded and how to anonymously collect your cash.
Ray, what's wrong? It's him. He hit me again. Oh my gosh. This time it was worse. He slammed my face in the wall and threatened to kill me. If you or someone you know is experiencing family violence, call 0800-WAY-OUT. Or you can text or WhatsApp to 672-9628.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
What did you mean earlier about climate change, Mom?
Well, when I was your age, I remember beautiful coral reefs and healthy beaches. The summers weren't as hot as they are right now, and the rainy season meant that it only rained when it was supposed to.
And then what happened?
The weather just started to change, and storms got worse. Coral reefs started to die because the ocean was getting too warm, and crops started to die because there was not much rain. You know, we realized as adults that we were doing something that was causing this.
What were you all doing?
The same thing we're doing now. Not using clean, renewable energy, chopping down too many trees, and even polluting the air with gases such as the gases emitted from our cars when we drive around.
We need to help before it's too late, Mom. We can't let it get worse. What can I do? We can raise our voices.
With 35 million dreams, aspirations, and futures at risk in Cari Forum, we need your voice in our story against climate change. Acknowledge, commit, act. This message is brought to you by the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center under the Intra-ACP Global Climate Change Alliance Plus program and is funded by the European Union.
And so we are back with our second half of this conversation, and it's an important conversation to have as we lead up to the Belize National Teachers Union convention, which will be held later this week. And this year's convention, the national elections, is scheduled for this year's convention, and we know that there are several individuals, BNTU members, vying for different positions in the executive, including the presidency. And we have with us two other guests that are a part of Team Transformation, right? That's Ms. Ifashina's team. And so we have none other than Mr. Edison Olgaldes. Olgaldes. Yes. Thank you so much. Sorry for butchering your name, sir. He's a candidate for the first vice president. And we also have a candidate for national secretary, none other than my brother, Mr. Bay Rivas. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
All right, so we had a discussion earlier with Mr. Ifashina, and now we have you both on. And as we were discussing earlier, you all have your own personal experiences as teachers. You have your personal, your views and certain issues that you're facing. So first, let me give you all the floor to share a bit about why you decided individually to put your name up to vie for these various positions. Starting with you, Ms. Edison.
Thank you. Good morning, Belize. Good morning, colleagues. I put myself up for elections because I believe that better can be done. I believe that we are not being represented at the best level and by the best people available. And so I believe in unionism. I believe that I can contribute my time and my experience into bringing up a better union.
Okay. And
what is your, before we get to B, what is your background in teaching, and how long have you been involved with BNTU?
With the BNTU since about 2012.
Okay.
With teaching, it started in 1980 as a primary school teacher. But I left for a while.
Okay.
So I did that fresh out of high school at a primary school in Progreso, Corozal district. I did that for 5 years, including the time when I went to the Belize Teachers College. And then I left in '85 to join the military, the Belize Defense Force.
Okay.
Yes. Then I came back in 2009 as a high school teacher.
Okay.
And I've been in the classroom since.
Wow. Yeah, interesting indeed. And I will get back to you on that story.
Sure.
I'd just like to hear from Mr. Rivas in terms of what inspired you to put your name up for a candidate for national secretary.
Well, Paul, thank you once more for this opportunity to be here. You know, I, as a person, I have always been active in my church, active in my community, and I always love to stand up for people. Like, nothing burns me or get me more riled up than when I see people being taken advantage of. You know, and I think one of the key things about BNTU and the work that we do, I feel that when we stand up, we don't just stand up for our members. When we were striking the last time that we were on strike against a 10% cut, the police would say to us, this man, they fight for my 10%. The police can't do it. But when we stand up as BNTU, we stand up for the police, we stand up for the nurses, we stand up for pensioners, we stand up for so many people. And I feel that our role as BNTU can also increase to how do we connect with the struggles of the stevedores, how do we connect with standing up for people, and that is the reason why I chose to offer myself in this leadership role.
How do you prepare yourselves for the sort of blacklisting or criticism that comes with being at the fore of some of these issues? And I know personally that, like you said, Bay, you're no stranger to being at the fore, but it requires that when you have skin in the game, that you're thick skin. They say, how we say it in Creole, alligator skin. Is that something you're prepared for?
You can go ahead.
Yes, for myself, I'm prepared. I'm a seasoned leader. As I said, I am from the military. I retired, but there are very many schools that I attended that prepared me, and so with experience and guidance, because we have to consult with our members as well. We represent them all, and we know that leadership has critics, but that is a part and parcel of the game.
Yes, and for me, one of the things with blacklisting and criticism, there's nothing like a clean conscience. You knowing that they can shoot and they can say all you know you do what is right. And you know you don't have any skeleton in the closets that they'll be using against you. You live your life right. You do what you need to do. You do it the best by your people. And that's all you need to be concerned about. And when I think what prepares you for it, Paul and Esani, is that you have that connection with people. You understand? Like when those police officers said that to me, I felt connected with them. So when I went out there and I was doing things that maybe even I myself would maybe say, maybe my personal values would say, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. But because I'm fighting for people, but because I have these peoples on my shoulder, you understand? I feel the need to do everything possible for them. You know, so I am fully prepared for that, whatever. Like, we know it comes with leadership. You know, you get in the ring, you have to be prepared to take some licks.
Now, you have a perspective from Benke, and Mr. Edison, your perspective is shaped by the experiences here in Belize City for the most part. So I'd like to get from both of you some of the challenges that you guys are facing currently that you would advocate for or betterment towards your experience here in Belize City.
In Belize City, at my school and several schools in Belize City, we have discipline issues with students. I would improve on policies concerning the treatment of students who are wayward. I don't think that the teachers are covered enough by what exists today. Things with telephones in schools, bringing phones to school, they are important, but they are problematic as well. And so we have to prepare our various standing operational procedures, if you will, to deal with SOPs, to deal with those. Then, as well,
they share the hurricanes.
Yes, issues with hurricanes, the packing and preparations, that sort of thing. Yeah. The classroom settings, the gadgets that teachers get in order to be able to do their job. Well, I'm saying gadgets, but they're really not. We are not there yet. Yeah. We have to improve on those.
Right.
Then the way teachers are treated as well, we have to work on those, because we can't leave our teachers in stressful conditions and expect them to perform at optimal levels.
Paul, I think most around the country, you will hear that a lot of the issues that teachers go through are very similar.
Yeah,
and one of the things that I teach at high school, and in a way, my heart goes out to primary school teachers. Because I'd be texting with some of my friends, like, when you do late nights, and they're doing lesson plans at 12, 1, I'm like, I'm up, but I'm not doing a lesson plan, and the primary school teachers, in terms of the workload, is significant. It is significant that they have to do. And right now with the curriculum reform, a lot of teachers are at a loss. Like, what is it that we're supposed to be doing with this new competency base? High schools don't even have a curriculum that we need to follow. All we have is a skeleton to say these are the subjects, these are how much hours you need to teach it. So there are many issues in terms of workload, right? Because at the end of the day, realistically, you guys work hard as journalists, right? And you want to know that when you reach home, you could relax, you could enjoy your time with your family, you could take it easy, because next day, it's another day. But if I have to be going through a significant level of stress, as the brother mentioned, with behavioral issues, and then I have to come home and I have to be dealing with another level of stuff that is school related, where is the time for the teacher? One of our issues is that we have schools in very remote areas, and teachers have to find a way to get there. They get an allowance of, let's say, $100. Now, if you need to use your vehicle to go all the way back to Timbuktu, right, the wear and tear and the gas and so forth, you realize some of the challenges that we feel there. And then the next thing too is that those allowances that we talk about, hardship and community, only apply to primary school teachers. If you are in a high school that live all the way, let's say Corazon Creek down south, no allowance for you. So these are some of the issues that are really across the board, and we feel it as well a lot in Benke.
We would say, first of all, that your job is a thankless one, so to speak. Your pride and your joy and your satisfaction comes from the academic performance and the progression of your kids as they matriculate through the system, right? But at the same time, it's a job that you guys signed up for. So along with that comes the challenges of being able to execute the function, right?
Right.
As teachers, you know that, okay, I take a job for a vacancy or been transferred to Mabilha, for argument's sake. When you sign up to be a teacher, you're aware of the fact that maybe a transfer will happen at some point where you're asked to work somewhere else. You understand that there is no budget for you as a teacher to get some monies to prepare your classroom at the beginning of the school year. That comes out of your pocket. You also understand that if you're given a 3-month holiday period, so to speak, there's a certain amount of time that's dedicated to workshops and preparing yourself ahead of the next academic year. These are things that you all understand going into your job, right? I think the biggest challenge is some of the variables that you're not prepared for that are thrown in there, that as teachers you're still expected to either foot the bill, you're still expected to learn or train, and still be able to operate in the classroom at the highest level. How do you guys reconcile with all of those demands?
I think one of the properties or one of the characteristics of teaching is to get students from their current understanding to new understanding, and part of that process is dealing with current understandings that are not correct, misunderstandings. You understand? When you sign up for a teacher, it's just like when you sign up for any job. You are signing up to provide your services. I know they sign up for, say, I will take money out of my pocket, out of my kids' mouth. I don't have to take money out of any saving funds that I would want to have for my family and to be able to use that to fund a classroom, because the education rules are clear. That it is the managing authorities that are responsible for the maintenance of the classrooms, and as well as for providing you with whatever materials. So when Marlene come and say, Paul, go do the story, and say, Paul, go buy a camera, go get one driver, go hire one horse. No, you're provided with the materials, you're provided with your resources so that you can do the job. Now, if you're provided with the resources and not come back with the story, then there's a problem. You understand? So I think and because it has been happening for so long, we accept it, that this is the norm, this is how we do things. Teachers just naturally have to spend $1,000 because some of them do. When you're talking about internship, teachers get loan for internship, nothing less than $2,000 for internship. When you talk about primary school, significant amount of money. And the truth is, I am a teacher, and nobody comes and tell me, babe, you have to take out of my pocket. But because of the job that we do it. But not because of any obligation. But you see, when you do it out of your heart, then they take it to mean, well, you're done with it, do it, continue do it. You understand? So while yes, we understand the challenges, we know that there are some issues that it's a bit unfair in terms of what is expected. But we as teachers, we know what we signed up for, and we do it to the best of our abilities. We do the CPDs. Some of them are all the way here in Belize City. No matter where you are in the country, the CXC workshops, the Belize City. So you have to find your way to get there, and we do it. We do it with all of these struggles. We do our jobs. We take out our pockets. Even the things that are not fair, we still do it because we love our students. And at the end of the day, when, as you said, when our reward is when we see our students doing well. And I tell my students, when they ask me if I have any kids, I tell them, yes, you guys are my kids. And even when they graduate, I still see them, and we have that bond and that relationship, and nothing can pay me for that.
All right, so let's talk about the convention. It comes up. When is the actual date for the convention and the election, and what's the process there? If you wouldn't mind giving me some insight into it.
Okay, so the convention this year is at Muffles College in Orange Drop. The Orange Drop branch is hosting. It will be April 12th and the 13th. Okay. And the election itself will be the second day, which will be the 13th. It will basically be the last thing we do. So if you guys will be camping out, it'll be a bit late. And usually for whenever there are elections, especially for national president, as we're looking to transition from the great work and the stellar work of Senator Elena Smith to a new national president, there's always more hype and more activities, so we expect a bigger crowd. We're celebrating it under the theme One Union, One Voice, BNTU for all, because the truth is, we have different perspectives, but at the end of the day, we're united with one cause.
Yeah. So,
okay, my question here. Are there 3 presidential candidates, is it?
Correct.
We have Ruth Schuman, we have Ifashina Ifuniemi, and we have Ray Martinez.
Correct.
What has their campaign been like in terms of reaching out to the broader membership of BNTU?
So the way the union organized it is that we had Zoom meetings with all 10 branches. So all of us were part of those Zoom meetings. We went in there, we presented ourselves. Each one of us had 10 minutes to present ourselves. They had opportunity for question and answers. So we had these Zoom meetings over the period of 2 weeks, I think, or a week. And then aside from that, I know Sister Ruth and her team have had Zoom meetings just with her slate to get people aware of it. And then we ourselves, we have done our best to reach out to, using social media, reaching out to the established media to get our message out. So that's how we've been working.
All right, and so election convention is the 12th, the 13th election is at the end of the convention, the last thing on the agenda. Any final thoughts to viewers, to those teachers that you're seeking support from? Any final thoughts?
Fellow teachers, brothers and sisters, please come out to play your role in the operations of your union. We are begging for your support in electing this team, the team transformation, because we believe that we are going to do a better job than what is happening at this stage. We wish to promote education, working together, unity. Members of the executives and everybody. Yeah. We believe we'll do a better job. We believe so because those on the other side have been there for a number of years and we really haven't seen much. But the key is being present to cast your vote. That is key. We want to do it, but we can't do it without your vote. Yeah. Please come out. That is what we ask.
Yes, and I would also echo what Brother Edison has shared, that this process of electing leaders is very important. And so it's very important for our members to be in touch so that they can know who the people are who are seeking to represent them. Because once they're there, they're there. And you have empowered them to speak on your behalf. So you got to make sure you do your due diligence and also make sure you come out and cast your vote on Convention Day, because then that is where you have the power to decide who will be your face for at least the next 2 years. So come out on Convention Day and make the right choice.
Perfect. All right, well, gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining us to have this conversation. With that, we'll take our final break and we'll be right back for wrap-up. So stay tuned.
Introduces Real Unlimited Postpaid Plans, providing customers with unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data. Now that's a real great deal. With Smart Plus, Share 1 and 2, and Enterprise 1 and 2 plans, you can talk as much as you want, text as much as you want, and for the first time ever in Belize, you can enjoy unlimited data with your postpaid plan. So come in and sign up for an unlimited postpaid plan and enjoy limitless possibilities. In addition, other plans such as the Flex Junior, Choice, and Select have been boosted with a lot more talk, text, and data, providing you with the best value for your budget. Be unlimited with Smart. It's time to power your dollar with Smart.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
Messi! Off goal! What a goal from Leo Messi! What an incredible strike from Leo Messi! Neymar and Messi standing over this. Messi. Oh, what a goal from Leo
Great entertainment stays with you, and we bring you great entertainment. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
We are back. Isani, a wonderful show this morning. Some lovely conversations being had, some very important conversations, in fact, with the candidates for President of the Belize National Teachers Union. As we just wrap that up, we'd like to thank Sister Ifashina, Brother Ray, Brother Edison, and Brother Bay for all coming on this morning and having those conversations with us. We have a birthday shout out, no stranger to us here, the anchor for our nightly newscast, none other than Sabrina Daly. We'd like to say happy birthday to you, Sabrina. We hope that you have a wonderful day. We know you have to come in to work today because, well, news tonight. But we do hope you enjoy the Easter, that you get to celebrate a bit today. And we will see you later on. Happy birthday, Sabrina. But yeah, if you have a birthday shout out, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you could always drop us a line on our email at oie@channel5belize.com. And of course, we're here every day. You can catch us live on our Facebook page at right there at Open Your Eyes BZ. That's facebook.com/OpenYourEyesBZ. Or you can catch all our highlights, because every day we bring highlights, and you can catch that on our Instagram page at Instagram.com/OIE-Belize. But until then, Isani, we're gonna come back tomorrow on our morning show where you open your eyes
to start your morning right.
But until then, you gotta keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
Right. So, guys, have a great day. See you tomorrow.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.